Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk, Real Sports with my co-host, Michael Sanchez, and I'm your host, Anthony Sanchez. Well, it's been an interesting couple weeks in sports. We apologize we weren't able to show our latest episode last week due to some vacation issues, but we're back this week, and we're ready to report on some interesting topics. We're going to start off first with the Miami Heat. And they were on a hot streak, but the last couple of games against the Rockets and the Spurs, they seem to tripped up a little bit.
Well, I'm pretty disappointed about that, man. I'm a huge Heat fan, and I take my pride in on defense, and lately that's where they've been struggling, is at the defensive end.
Yeah, it looks like they weren't putting the energy. I don't know if LeBron, after that 61 points against the Bobcats, was a little wore down, but he definitely looked like he didn't have the energy. He starts off hot, like he's back, but then you can see he just wears out. Dwayne Wade, the last game, he still got his points, but
they're looking a little sluggish right now, in this last little stretch. Not as strong as I thought they would be playing. Hopefully they pick it up for tomorrow's game, going up against
the Bulls. They play the Bulls tomorrow. Joakim Noah, he doesn't like us. We don't like them, and they're trying to. All of a sudden, I hear that they're trying to pull Carmelo. I hear Joakim Noah's out there trying to talk to Carmelo to see if he wants to come join the Bulls next year.
Hey, that's going to be interesting because at the same time, the Knicks are trying to grab Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson was able to deal with a man like Michael Jordan, deal with a man like Kobe Bryant. I think he can drop some knowledge onto Carmelo Anthony and probably bring the Knicks in some contention.
Well, Phil Jackson used to play with the Knicks, so, they have a little leg up there. But, does he really want to come into a situation where the whole roster is about to get let go because they can't afford these guys? Their contracts are too big. Nobody wants to take on those huge contracts. And you got a lot of aging guys on that team also.
Yeah, it's very true. But then again, they do have Carmelo, who's a guy who's consistently putting 25, 26 points. He's your true scorer. He's like an Iverson. He's a Kobe Bryant. He's a guy that you do want on your team, but you need the right guy to control him. And the Heat, they're going to get stronger. I know once playoff time comes around, you're going to see them full throttle. Even if LeBron is gassed out, he'll still be out there.
Well, we can't even put it all on the Heat right now that they're not playing at the top of their game, because they're not the only ones. The Indiana Pacers are tripping themselves up right now as well. They could have easily made the gap between us and them for first place a lot bigger, but we're only still, I think, a game and a half, maybe a game, because they lost last night as well to the Rockets, and the Rockets actually throttled them.
So Houston's a tough team. Let me tell you, that Western Conference is not weak at all. They have a very strong conference. Thank God we only have to play one of them, because if we had to run our playoffs through the West, it'd be tough.
Yeah, it would be very tough. The East right now, it's really up to the top two teams, which is Indiana and Miami. Again, look, personally, I don't think there's anything to worry about with the Heat. I think the Heat are going to be fine. They tripped up a little bit. I think they're tired. I think a couple of days are going to do them some good now. They play tomorrow against the Bulls. So, we'll see. Again, me personally, I'm not worried. Your final thought on that?
Well, all I can say is San Antonio is a very opposing threat. We might have seen a repeat of what might go down again at the end of this season. Spurs and Heat. It's very possible. Those Spurs are playing so tough. Tim Duncan's at the end of his career, and he wants that last run out with a championship.
Yeah, not only Tim Duncan, but you got Parker, who basically said after 2016 he's done.
That guy is amazing. He was keeping up the tempo for the Spurs. That is their spark plug right there.
Yeah, no, they're going to be definitely tough, and the West has something to deal with, and we know that, a lot of people think that they're boring and not fun to watch, but hey, at the end of the day, they win games.
Hey, with Greg Popovich, they're pure fundamentals. That's the team that I always got to circle when I'm watching the Heat, because, man, they beat you up. It's so fundamentally, like you said, nothing impressive, nothing woo-ha about them. It's just regular, old-school, beat-you-down basketball.
Yeah, it's funny that you say fundamental, because that's what they call Tim Duncan, the big fundamental.
Hey, the guy's amazing. Definitely a Hall of Famer in the making.
Oh, no, that's automatic. He's just playing now to build on his legacy. But again, so stay tuned tomorrow for the Miami Heat versus the Bulls. Hopefully, we'll get back on the winning streak again. But, now to move on to another topic that's really, like always, covering year-round, never stops, the NFL. And our Miami Dolphins. Our Miami Dolphins definitely have an interesting offseason. I'm glad to hear they re-signed Brent Grimes. Brent Grimes, welcome back.
Huge.
What did you think about that signing?
I loved it, man. This guy was basically, he did make the Pro Bowl, but besides Cameron Wake, he's, I'd say, the next best player on the team if you want to go by player.
Hey, I mean, all you got to look at is the stat is he allowed 0 touchdowns on his side. He basically sealed that side of the field off.
Hey, he almost put a name for himself this season. Shutdown corner, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and don't underestimate his size. I mean, what, 5'9", 5'10" at most? But you know what? Big heart, big jumping ability, vertical leap. The guy can definitely play. Well, welcome back, and definitely can't wait to see you this season. Now, what is going to be interesting is we got a couple of left tackles out there in free agency that are going to draw some attention.
Eugene Monroe, you need to come over here, man.
And we got Brandon Albert, I mean, with the experience, but definitely Eugene Monroe is the one you want to kind of look at, I think, in my opinion as well, because he's 26 years old, he's 6'5", 309 pounds. You can't beat that. And he was a first-round pick in the top 10. So for a reason, he was picked in the top 10.
Well, would be nice if somehow Dennis Hickey talk to McKinney, get him re-signed, and bring in Eugene Monroe. That would be nice. They already played together in Baltimore. They'll have great chemistry here in Miami.
Man, I like that move because then you don't have to worry about the right side because you can move Brian McKinney, who has played right tackle as well. You can solidify with a veteran right tackle, put another veteran who's still young though, and Eugene Monroe to play the left. And what is that now? The whole draft scenario changes. I think now with the draft, with the 19th overall pick, now you have a little bit more of a choice instead of saying we have to take a left tackle. Now you have a little bit more options. And I don't know, I want to get your take on what do you think if everything plays out, let's say everything plays out perfect, we take either Brandon Albert or Eugene Monroe at left tackle in free agency. Now we got the 19th pick in the draft, and you're on the clock. Who do you take?
I'm going to have to say definitely, without a doubt in my mind, Zach Martin. I know a few analysts out there have this guy, and, you know, it's for a reason. The guy is amazing at all 5 positions. If, God forbid, one of our tackles goes down, you know, you have a solid guy to step in there. But most importantly, is the guard position. Everybody is saying how he will become a stud immediately in the NFL at the guard position.
Oh, that's a very good, interesting pick. I'll tell you what. I mean, Zach Martin, he is versatile. He can play the left, the right tackle positions. And like you said, every scout in the NFL pretty much is saying that if he moves to the inside, you pretty much have a special player in your hands. The guy is like a wall in pass protection. He has a great running blocking ability. I mean, the guy's athletic. He knows how to pull. He can set up on screens. Good feet. Good footwork. And, you know, I think that's a solid pick. But me personally, I mean, I'm going to go down my little list here. I also like, if you're looking for a true guard, David Yankee from Stanford. The guy is 6'5", 313 pounds. He finishes his blocks. He's a mean street type of guy. Versatile as well, can play guard on either side. But I think what we're going to need him at, obviously with the whole Richie Incognito situation, is we're going to need him to play left.
Honestly, the Dolphins haven't re-signed Chris Clemens. I don't know if they're going to get that done. But if they don't, then the safety position is something you might want to be looking at. One guy who I do love, but then again, he can possibly be available in the 2nd round. So I don't know if you want to jump the gun on him in the 1st, because some people are looking at him. And that's HaHa Dixon and Deion Buchanan. 2 safeties I have high on my board.
Oh, HaHa Dixon rated the #1 safety coming out now from the University of Alabama. You know, he definitely has the championship pedigree. You know, he got a lot of turnovers. I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. HaHa Dixon, I just don't see him being the guy that makes plays. He looks like the guy that just happened to be at the right place at the wrong time. I mean, you can look at that in a good way or in a bad way. In a good way is that he just knows where to be, because he knows the playbook, he knows the plays. But then at the same time, was he just a benefit of being at the right place at the right time? The guy I would look at, to be honest with you, is Terron Brooks from FSU. I know UM fans, you don't want to hear me picking an FSU guy, but hey, you got to give the guy credit. The guy makes plays on a great zone coverage safety. Comes up and tackles, definitely can hit. Strips the ball. You know, he reminds me of a Ryan Clark type of safety. You know, he's all about making plays. So I like Terrence Brooks from Florida State. I'm going to go back to a position of need that if, you know, you think because we signed Mike Wallace last year, it might not be the way to go. But I'm looking at a big-bodied wide receiver. If we decide to hold off on guard to the 2nd round, which I think you can get a quality guard there as well. If anybody knows of Dave Jackson from Mississippi State, that guy's a road grader. The guy takes up space and moves people out the way. So that's a guy to look at in the 2nd round at guard. But going back to the big-bodied wide receivers, the one I would personally love to have there sitting there at number 19 that I would take is Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin, The guy, I mean, looking just at his stats here, 6'5", 240 pounds, ran the 40 in a 4.53. For a guy that size, that's pretty impressive.
Calvin Benjamin is great. I mean, another FSU guy, another guy that
I mean, they didn't win the national championship for nothing. Now, when you think about it, I mean, look at all these guys coming out of that team.
You're right. Another guy that I personally like, now that you brought up the wide receivers, is from Penn State.
Oh, Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Very big, strong, athletic. Not afraid to go up for the ball at all. Very physical guy. He's another guy that you can probably look at that position. Like you said, it's all going to pan out on what we do on this free agency. Free agency is looking pretty good for us as well. Like you said, if we do solidify that tackle, then we can easily go ahead, play the guard spot, and go ahead in second round and feast off of one of those big wide receivers, like you said. And Allen Robinson's one that I think will be available.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you. I think Allen Robinson would definitely be there in the second round. And I think, again, that's what will make everything really interesting with this draft, for us anyway, is because if we do follow the plan that's kind of laid out in front of us right now of taking a left tackle in free agency, gives us, like I said, options. We'll have options. We can go guard if it's available, well, the best guard available. If he's not available, then you can either go a receiver or even a top safety. I mean, these are needs that the Dolphins have. Like you said, again, it's going to matter, do we re-sign Chris Clemens? If we re-sign Chris Clemens, then safety is not that big of a need right away.
You know what's a big need for us that not many people are mentioning? I might have seen one guy out there talking about it, and I think it's very huge and people are overlooking it. That's a defensive tackle spot. We haven't re-signed Soldier. We haven't re-signed Starks. And even when we had him last year, we still ranked 28th in the running game. I think that middle needs to get plugged in. You might want to look at that early on. Any names you got that might possibly trigger something at 19 with Hickey and Philbin that might catch their eye?
I mean, you're going to have the top two tackles pretty much gone by then. The defensive line tackles are going to pretty much be gone by then. But I think a third name that's being out there, and some people have projected him to us, is Louis Nix III from Notre Dame. He's a big body. You know, he's quick. Kind of sort of reminds you of Warren Sapp at times, but has been known to take some plays off. And then, you know, he can be maybe a little lazy. I mean, when you saw him against Alabama, you saw what those Alabama offensive linemen did to him. And those guys are huge. They swallowed him up. They didn't make any plays.
Reminds you of what happened to Matt Teo.
Exactly. Matt Teo got swallowed up by those big offensive
linemen. The guy was amazing throughout his whole career. Came to Alabama, played with men against men, and yeah.
So it's you know, I think what they really need to focus in on right now with the number 19 pick is if we take the left tackle, I think you got to solidify yourself with a good guard. And I think if you get a guy like Zach Martin, like we were talking about earlier, I think it's a no-brainer. If Zach Martin's there at number 19 and you've taken the left tackle, I think you take that guy automatically.
Okay, so we've got Zach Martin. He's off the board. It's second round. Who are you taking? Are you going to try to plug in that defensive tackle spot, or are you still going on that big receiver?
No, now we'll definitely go big receiver. I mean, I think you got to compliment Brian Hartline and Mike Wallace. I mean, Mike Wallace, you know he can burn, but let's be real. He didn't go up for the ball. He doesn't go and try to take it from anybody. I mean, I know he's not like a 6'3", 6'4" receiver, but he made no effort about that last year. If he would have made some effort about that last year, I think he would have had some passes more than he said he could have had. But
I agree with you there, but I still feel that our problem last year came down to running and stopping that run. Sometimes having a safety like Deion Buchanan, Ahmad Dixon, these guys will come, rush up in there, and help out a little more on the run.
Oh, well, those are big, intimidating safeties. But those are guys that will definitely be available between rounds 2, 3, and even maybe 4. I can see Buchanan falling even to 3 and 4 just because he's more known as an intimidator, as a physical presence. But honestly, I think the Dolphins need to really focus in on guard, wide receiver, and safety within the first 3, even maybe 4 rounds. But at least the first 3 need to go that way. I'm going to have
to say, man, it's going to have to be either a safety or defensive tackle before you take care of that receiver spot. I think once we solidify our line, we can work with what we have. I mean, you saw what we did with Wallace and Hartline, and that was Wallace not connecting with, well, vice versa. Tannehill not connecting with Wallace. Because we saw what Wallace can do to those corners. Once he gets him on that step, he's gone. If Tannehill can connect with him, he easily left 7-8 touchdowns on the field last season.
But again, we come back to what? The offensive line. So what we have to definitely do is solidify that offensive line, both left tackle and a guard. And like I said, and try to re-sign Brian McKinney like we were talking about earlier, because then you have that better right tackle.
Like we said, we got our line fixed, but you're saying go after the receiver after the
I say a big-bodied wide receiver. And I mean, and honestly, it has to be somebody that's impressive. Now, if nobody's that impressive at that point, then yeah, I would say go defensive tackle, go safety. But it's not a need. We have one of the top defenses in the league. At the end of the day, that defense is what kept us in games. What blew a lot of those games were the offense. Tannehill throwing interceptions, receivers dropping passes.
Oh, not to mention getting sacked the most.
58 times in one season. I mean, again, offensive line. So, and that defense kept us in a lot of games, let me tell you. So, I think we're going to sign either Soliai or Starks. That's not that's a given. One of them is coming back.
But even having one of them, we still rank 28th in the running game.
But we're loaded. We're loaded at defensive line. We're loaded. I mean, Jared Aldrick is going to move back into the middle, so he's going to be the other one. You got Deion Jordan, and now they're talking about trading him. Okay, whatever. If we trade him, we get something worth it. We're going to get a couple picks for him easily. So it all depends. But then now they're saying that, we're maybe not going to trade him, whatever. So a lot's going to depend on free agency. We can't speculate too much yet because free agency hasn't started yet. And by the way, it starts March 11th at 4 p.m. So get ready to watch everybody run into the computers, run into all the internet sites, because the frenzy is going to start as of March 11th at 4 p.m. is when the free agency market opens up. So
I'm going to tell you a name that's in free agency, that this is a position that I know we did pretty good at, thanks to Brent Grimes. But it would be beautiful to get somebody like Cortland Finnegan. I love this guy. Just like Brent Grimes. Opposite of him, an inch shorter, just as physical. I mean,
actually might be a little bit more physical.
Yeah, that's true. We saw what he did with Andre Johnson. When
nobody can get under the skin of Andre Johnson. look what happened there.
Hey, if Cortland Finnegan is out there, Hickey, and he's there for the right price, please bring him in. Because we do not know what Davis and Taylor are going to do. Ride the bench again? Come on.
Yeah.
Dimitri Patterson was amazing. Only gave us 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, he's injury prone. And the other question you have is Nolan Carroll's another free agent. We haven't re-signed him.
I like Carroll. He's a little.
He's solid.
He's a risk taker. He's one of those guys that
you want to have on your bench at least.
Yeah.
So to come in and replace your starter.
Yeah, he's a 3-4.
He's a solid.
He's a 3-4 corner.
Just a corner is going to come in and at least if your starter goes down, he can help you out like he did with the Dolphins when Patterson went down. He kept us up for a few games there, not the best, not the worst. He was decent.
But if we can get Cortland Finnegan, that will definitely change this draft.
No, you want to hear an argument from me about Cortland Finnegan. Cortland Finnegan's proven, has a little edge to him, a little attitude to him, a little physicalness. So, that wouldn't be a bad pick. Again, the Dolphins have some interesting moves to make this offseason. Good thing is that even after re-signing of Brent Grimes, we still have $36 million in the cap for space. So, we'll see. We definitely have options. We're not strapped for cash. So, and we have we have plenty of draft picks. And who knows if we make moves during the draft. I mean, it's all going to depend on what we do during free agency before the draft gets here. So again, we can speculate all day. This is what we think should happen. But again, it's going to come down to what Hickey and that organization feels that needs to be done. But I believe in Hickey, to be honest with you. I think Hickey has a proven record with Tampa Bay with the people he picked. I think this is the process that he looks for. He was an ex-scout, so I think he knows how to evaluate talent.
He was actually going after, I don't know if he saw a problem in our linebacker core, because he was actually looking for Dequan Jackson.
Yeah, well, unfortunately he signed with the Colts.
He did.
But he must have seen something there.
That goes to show you he is looking for a linebacker for something. Maybe that's something we'll see in the draft.
There's, like I said, we have options. That's the good thing. And, basically the Dolphins have to really look at themselves and say, hey, what do we need? What do we need to strike on now and make a move? I mean, don't sit there and think about it. If that's the guy you want, go get him.
I really hope Philbin and Hickey have had a few dinners and have been talking a lot about this, because those are the two that need to make all these decisions. They need to do groceries together and then let Philbin cook it all up.
Well, I think that's what they're going. Every time I hear Hickey talking now, before he even says, he finishes giving his opinion, he says, me and Philbin will be talking about this. And or when he has talked about a player, he says something that me and Joe have spoken about, and we like what we see from this guy. So a lot of it sounds like collaboration between the two.
That's huge. That is very huge, because, man, there was a disaster in this organization when it came to drafting. You had one guy wanting this guy and another saying, no, we're going to take this guy instead. And that's not good. especially for coaches nowadays that they're on bubbles and it's what can you do for me right now, yet they don't let you do for them now with what you want. You have to do for them with what they supply for you. And I hope Hickey does what you've been saying.
Yeah, I think that's gonna happen. Well, it's been a great show again. Working together again today. Like I said, we apologize for last week. We cannot bring the show to you due to scheduling difficulties. But we're back, and like I said, thank you for joining us and watching our show. Stay tuned to our next show, where we're definitely going to keep you updated on the Dolphins offseason. Your Marlins, by the way, the Marlins have been having a pretty good spring training. Salute to them. I think they're 6-2 right now in spring training games. And basically, before we get out of here today, I want to send out a special shout out to the U baseball team for going out there and throwing out a perfect game. Javi Salas was the pitcher that threw the perfect game on March 4th of this year, 2014. And it's only the second perfect game in UM history, in UM baseball history. So, salutes to you, and a great game. And UM, it was a nice game out there. You guys blew them out 17-0. So, what a game. And again, Javi Salas, congratulations to you. And, that basically does it for our show today. My co-host, Michael Sanchez.
See you next week.
I'm your host, Anthony Sanchez. See you next week. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.